Hey seniors, it's Mr. Ream. I want to take just a few minutes of your time and talk to you briefly about some important information about the junior college or two-year college or community college. All three of those words mean the same thing. The process and some of the pros and cons and benefits. I'm also going to share a little bit of information from Christopher Old, who's the counselor over at the Truckee campus of Sierra College, and show you a few tips and tricks about how to access information, some of the timeline that you might need to be aware of, and some other details that are going to be helpful in terms of preparing you to become a community college student and why you might want to. Okay, so I appreciate you sticking with me. If you have questions about any of this, students and parents, feel free to make an appointment with me. We'll be doing virtual meetings through the rest of this 2020-2021 school year. But hopefully you learned some information and I'm able to share some details about why junior college might be a great fit for you. So a couple different things that are going to be important about junior college are going to be one of the biggest things and one of the biggest benefits, which Christopher will go over with you in just a second, is that ultimately when you're applying to junior college, you're doing more of an enrollment process than anything else. So one of the benefits is that you are not competing against other students in that enrollment process. So whereas the four-year college requires you to actually vie for a seat, so you're going to be proving why you should be able to attend school at a four-year university in most cases, the junior college is open enrollment, meaning that if you graduate high school, and many times even if you don't, you can enroll in their programs. And it's really more about preparation to be successful on campus rather than preparing to be accepted on campus. And there's some great pathways. There are a few concerns, which I'll touch after Christopher talks, and some pitfalls just to be aware about. But for many students, the junior college path, whether you're completing a certificate, a skills certificate, or an associate's degree, or an associate's degree for transfer and taking advantage of the transfer path to achieve a bachelor's degree, all of those paths are excellent opportunities for you as a student and for you as a family potentially. So we'll talk about a few of those in just a minute. To get us started, I do want to show you this brief video that Christopher Old has sent out to us counselors. And he talks a little about Sierra College, but much of what he talks about is applicable across all of the different community colleges. And I believe there's currently 114 community colleges across the state. So there's one pretty much about an hour's distance from generally just about any point in California. So I'll talk more about some of the things you'll look for, but here's Christopher Old to share with you about Sierra College and why junior college.
Hello everyone, I'm Christopher Old and I'm the counselor at the Tahoe Truckee campus of Sierra College, and I wanted to just stop in to tell you a little bit about Sierra College and some of the opportunities that we have there for you. So let me begin with why would you come to a community college? One of the reasons that you may want to come to Sierra College is because there's a variety of different goals you can reach by coming to Sierra College. So some students come to us because they want to earn a skills certificate, so they just want to take a few classes in a particular area in order to get skills in that area that they can then use to get a job. Other students come to us because they want to get an associate's degree, which is a two-year college degree that you can get by being a full-time student for 2 years. There are a lot of jobs out there that you can get having that associate's degree. And then other students come to us because they want to start at Sierra College and begin at the community college level and then transfer on to a four-year school in order to get their bachelor's degree. We have a variety of programs that can really help with that transfer. We have an associate's degree for transfer, which is an agreement between the California community colleges and the California state universities. And with that degree, you can get guaranteed acceptance to the CSU system. We also have something called the TAG program, which is the Transfer Admission Guarantee, and that program is with the UC system. And with that program, you can set up guaranteed admissions to 6 of the different UCs. So those are great programs. A lot of students will start at a community college and then transfer in, and they actually find it much easier to get into the school of their choice when they're coming in as a transfer student. About 2 out of every 3 students that apply to the UCs, for example, will get into the school of their choice if they're coming through the transfer pathway. And it's a much more common pathway than most people think. Other reasons to go to community college. One other reason is that community colleges have great instructors, and our instructors have a lot of hands-on knowledge. And so I really encourage you to take a class with us and see how high quality the instructors are. For example, the instructor in this picture is our business instructor, and he's holding up the textbook for one of his classes, which is a textbook that he wrote and is being used all around the country. So you can get really high quality instruction. Another nice thing about community colleges is classes tend to be much smaller at community colleges than they are at a large university. So for example, if you were to take an Introduction to Psychology class at Sierra College here on the Truckee campus, you would probably have about 15 students in that class with you. Whereas that same class at somewhere like UC Davis or UNR, you'd probably be in a lecture hall with about 400 students. So if you like small class sizes and working in small groups and getting that individual attention, community college can be a great way to go. Another reason students come to community college is financial. The reality is that college can be expensive. Community college is much less expensive. You can see in this chart the cost of going to a CSU versus the cost of going to a UC versus the cost of going to a private school. And then you'll see the cost of Sierra College down there at the bottom, which is much, much less. On average, students can save about $15,000 by starting at a community college. And that has gotten even better recently. We now have at Sierra College our first 2 years free program. And in that program, if you can be a full-time student taking at least 4 classes a semester, then your tuition is absolutely free. And this is regardless of your family's financial situation. So it's not income dependent at all. All you need to do is come and be that full-time student and you will get free tuition. So it's a pretty good deal. Also want to make sure you all know about the Academic Enrichment Program, also known as the Ferrari program. And this is where students that are high school students here in the Truckee Tahoe area can take classes at Sierra College for free while you're in high school. And you'll get dual credit, so those classes will count toward your high school graduation, and they also give you college credit. And that's a great way to get a head start on college so that when you show up at whatever school you decide to go to, you already have some college credits there that'll give you a nice base to start with and more flexibility later on. It's also a nice way to see what a college class would be like. So I really encourage you, when you're thinking about your classes for the spring semester, talk to your counselor there at the high school and decide what college classes might be good classes to take, and then come on and take a class with us and see how it goes. Lastly, I wanted to mention the virtual preview. On October 17th, we will be doing a virtual preview of Sierra College. You can learn a lot about the college as a whole. You'll learn a lot about the Rockland campus because that's our main campus. But as a Sierra College student, you can take classes on any of our campuses at any time. And so I encourage you to check out the virtual preview day on October 17th. If you go to our website and look for the virtual preview day, there's a link in there where you can register for that so that you can participate in that day. As I mentioned, I'm Christopher Old, and I'm here to help in any way that I can. So if you have any questions at all, please let us know. You can call the front desk at 530-550-2225, and they'd be able to schedule an appointment so you can meet with me and I can answer questions that way. Also, you can send me an email to cold@sierracollege.edu. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you at Sierra College sometime soon.
So I hope that you got some information from Christopher, and I'm hoping to expand on a bit of the information that he did share. I'm going to start with how we actually get to junior college. And essentially, there's a little bit different of a time frame and process than some of the four-year college applications that maybe you're familiar with, where many times you're going to be applying in early fall and then you don't find out, say, until spring. With the junior college process, like I mentioned earlier, it's a non-competitive admissions process. And so generally the time frame is pushed back slightly in your senior year. So it is not uncommon that enrollment timeframes are generally kicking into gear around December or January of your senior year. Okay, so not necessarily something you're going to be doing October, November. It's usually a little bit early in the spring or late winter. And so I'll show you where to find some of that details about the schools that you're looking at. The other piece that's different, like I said, you're not going to be competing for admissions. And so whereas for four-year college, you do have to do research in the beginning to build your list of schools because you're applying to more than one. And then you're going to be reevaluating that list based on where you get in. with the junior college process, all of that research is going to happen at the very beginning of the time frame. Okay, so basically you can go from looking at your options, all 114 California junior colleges are potentially out of state. We'll talk about that later. But really you're going to be looking at those and narrowing down to the school that you want to go to. All right, so you're going to do all of that into one chunk. And so ultimately it is important for you to take a look and understand what that process looks like and do that research up front. All right, there's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at junior colleges. You can go to any of the junior colleges in California. All right, there's some implications about where you go, for example, cost and access and size of the school and things like that you want to consider. But ultimately, when you're doing this research, the school's website is one of the better places to find out information. I'm going to show you Sierra Colleges and also Santa Barbara City Colleges, two popular schools among our students, for just an example purpose of where you can find some key pieces of information, which you should probably be able to find in very similar types of menus and places on websites for other community colleges you might also be looking at. So up on the screen you currently see the Sierra College website. And so it might look slightly different depending on the time of year. The pictures could change, the information could change, but ultimately this menu at the top should stay the same. And on most applications, you'll see something that has to do with academics or school or majors or programs. You'll see about admissions or enrollment. You usually see student services, which could also include financial aid, and then a few other pieces like athletics or other areas. Okay, there's the 3 or 4 main areas I want you to pay close attention to right now is going to be the academics, the admissions, and the student services, which is the help and the financial aid. I'll show you that on Santa Barbara City College. The menu's over here on the left. And you'll see the academics, so the programs, admissions, financial aid, and then also this is like living and student life, and then this would be like your student support. How do I access some of the help and information that I need to be a good and healthy student? Okay, so all those 4 menu items, and since they're at the top, they probably are pretty important. So the first place that a lot of students might want to look at is, okay, so what can I actually study when I'm at a junior college? And why would I want to go there? So if we click on the academics area, for Sierra College, what pops up in just a second will be for a couple different areas. So there's 5 different areas here. So exploring the academic programs, understanding a little bit more about the careers that those programs are leading to, what their class schedule looks like, the academic calendar, which is important when we get to the admissions side of things. Okay, and the online catalog gives a little bit more about that class schedule, and you can read more about the classes you might want to be taking or some of the programs that they offer. For your purposes, usually as a senior, kind of like doing some of this research, you might want to know what programs are available to you. And so exploring the academic program button is an excellent place to get started because it will show all of the different routes you can take to reach a goal that you might have for yourself. And there are a number of different routes that you can take at a junior college. There's not just a single end goal from junior college. Like I mentioned earlier, you can get a skills certificate. You can get a certification in different areas that will help you go out and get a higher paying job than what you might just get with a high school diploma. Maybe you need some additional skills. You can also earn an associate's degree. They call that an AA or an AS degree. And that's a 2-year program that will basically have you do some of those certificate skills and then expand on it. It oftentimes also includes some different areas like English and math that generally help make a well-rounded employee and a well-rounded student. And then finally, there's the transfer path, and many of the majors that you'll look at will actually have an AA or an AS with a -T at the end. And what that means is associate's degree for transfer. And what that does is it's kind of like your high school diploma. The AA degree is kind of like your high school diploma. You can earn a high school diploma without meeting A through G requirements to apply to a CSU or a UC. Maybe you didn't take Integrated Math 3. Maybe you got a D in English, and it kept you from meeting some of those requirements. That's kind of like your AA degree, where you don't have to take certain classes or achieve certain particular things, but you still leave with a high school diploma the same way you would still leave with an associate's degree. Whereas the associate's degree for transfer has some very specific courses that you have to accomplish with some specific criteria that will let you then go into an agreement, like Christopher talked about, with one of those UCs or CSUs to then transfer and complete the second half of your degree for your bachelor's degree. Okay, and so that's kind of how it works. If we scroll down here, what we can look at, let's start with business. If you're looking at business and innovation, it'll pop up and it'll give us like 3 different options in this example. So recreation management, economics, and business. We'll go with business because it's pretty generic and you guys can do a lot of things with business. It gives you a brief overview when you hover and also the degrees that they offer. But this is a helpful thing, and many schools, I'll show you on Santa Barbara City College in just a second as well. It gives you some very detailed information about what this particular field of study is about, all right? And then it also lays out the academic plans. And there's quite a few, as you can see, all right? So down here, you see there's some skills certificate. Okay, this is something that if you, again, want to become a payroll professional, so if you want to do payroll at a business, if you want to do some levels of like retail management or start in the the real estate profession, there's some certificates of achievement that you can do, which basically are short, about a year long, 2 semesters of very kind of focused, specialized classes. Sometimes this could be fairly similar to kind of like a trade or technical school as well, where they take out some of the quote unquote non-essential classes and lets you focus, really kind of like laser focus in on the stuff that you really want to learn. If you scroll back up, what you'll see up here is you also see, if you did general business, you see the AA or AS and a non-transfer degree. That's going to be the degree that if you wanted to do 2 years of school, leave with an associate's degree, and then go find a job, start your own business or something else within that field, you would be basically finishing up your formalized schooling, okay, with this, they would call it a capstone or matriculative degree. All right, and so this term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, that's 2 years of study, so these are each semesters, and it just spells out what classes you can take. On that page that I showed you earlier with the little circles, you can look up the course catalog and actually search for Business 280, or probably 28 is my guess, and really understand what that actually means. So you can look up, what is that course, what will I be doing, okay? And you can also see that you'll have a math class. I believe this is statistics. You'll have an introductory level English class as part of this program as well. That's the non-transfer degree, and then a difference would be, for this one we have 1, 2, 3 business classes going on. All right. For this one up here, you're going to have 1 business class, and then you also have economics, English, math, and history. So a little bit more well-rounded of a curriculum, where you will take some courses that might be more similar to maybe what you'd be taking in a high school, very similar to our A through G requirements, like I said. And so looking at some of this information would be very helpful to determine what path might be nice for you. Okay, understanding what you're getting yourself into. Continue to explore some of those key areas. If we looked at Santa Barbara City College, for example, and we went over here and we found all degrees and certificates under the academic and careers pathways, what we'll be able to find under business is very similar of a thing. So if we can go down to B, okay, if we do business administration, it's going to give you, again, those little acronyms at the end. An associate's degree, you finish. An AS-T, you will then transfer on, say, to Santa Barbara City College, or to UCSB or something similar. An important note about the transfer process, too, while I'm on it, is you do not have to go to a junior college that is close by to a university that you want to transfer to. There's a junior college very close, and you can transfer to any potential college that would be accessible to you via transfer. It does not require which junior college you attend. All right. But if we clicked on this business administration for transfer, just for example purposes, you'll see some key areas. Again, they'll cover a little bit of details about it. They'll talk about some of the requirements, which is a very important piece, some of the learning outcomes you might have, and then also a recommended sequence. And so what that does is that'll open up this new page. And what they do, very similarly to that last sheet, they'll spell out kind of how you should be taking your classes in general. Most programs will ask you to do a counseling appointment prior to your enrollment, and they will help spell out and essentially create a map for you. And that's one of the pitfalls that I'll point out, is one of the biggest things that impacts students successfully navigating a junior college is because they are open admissions, they do not have a cap on the amount of students on campus. Similar to, different than a CSU or UC would. They limit the amount of students that they accept because they only have so much space in classes and dorms and things like that. Whereas a junior college, they're open enrollment. They might have 30,000 students enrolled on a campus, but potentially they might only offer courses for 20,000 students, enough seats, all right? And so it's an important consideration, and there's some big important steps about planning that will keep you on track to graduate or transfer or complete a certificate on the intended time frame. Lack of planning is probably the number one thing that costs people time and costs people money in this degree process. That applies also at four-year colleges, but you see it a little bit more impacted at a junior college level, primarily because of that. There's a little bit more competition sometimes for classes, so you want to make sure like you're registering on the day that you're supposed to, that you follow all the rules and directions, okay? By clicking on that, you just see kind of a very similar thing. It talks about the different courses you're going to need to take in the different semester timeframes. Okay, so that's a very helpful piece to have access to. Coming back over here, we're going to go up here now over to the admissions page. All right, and so you can see there's a number of like if you want to know how much school costs, there are programs, like Christopher said, that you can actually have the first 2 years of junior college tuition paid for. I'll talk about that when I talk about financial aid in just a second. But it's an important distinction because it can be a very valuable resource for pursuing your education. But if you click on Sierra College's admissions page, it's going to give you several steps. While it's loading, I'm going to go over here to SBCC and just load it up too. Under the apply and enroll, you're going to be a first-time college student. Even if you took classes at Sierra College already, you're going to be a first-time freshman. It shouldn't, even if you took like an English class or something else while you're in high school, they're really talking about the first time after you graduate. So you're going to click on that. And once we're done, it's going to ask you, okay, where are you at? And on Sierra College, it's going to say again, are you a new student? Okay, and these other things are not going to really be applicable to you anymore. So if you click new, what it's going to do is it's going to show you a few key areas. Okay, it's going to actually give you 3 different steps, all right, with a few steps in here that you'll want to start looking at accomplishing. All right, most of the time, like I said, is probably around December or so when most students will start working on this process for junior college. But it's something that you want to use this time now to really do your research. All right, really read up about it. Read about what the requirements are going to be, what the expectations are going to be. Start getting yourself a little bit excited about the classes you might be taking, about where you might move or live at. Okay, just understanding the process. The more you know, the more efficient you're going to be in your learning. Okay, also the more efficient you're going to be with saving money and seeing yourself through this process of reaching your degree, which is important to everybody. The sooner you graduate, the sooner you get a job, the sooner you get paid. Okay, so you can see here it talks about applying. You'll be applying through this program called OpenCCC. All right, and that's basically a generic application that you'll use. So in this research process, you also don't have to pick 5 different schools. You're going to do all your research and just pick one. Like you shouldn't be necessarily having to apply to multiple junior colleges. But if you did, you would use this account that you'd create with this website to apply to any of them. Okay, you'll get access to something called My Sierra at Sierra College, or something else that they call something that their program is at a different junior college. But they will basically be, it's kind of like Aries for college. It's where your grades will post. It's where you'll register for classes. It's where you'll find out about financial aid and a lot of other details. Also your web mail and stuff like that's on there. All right. You'll be able to opt in for that 2 years of free, and then also you'll be able to complete you don't complete your financial aid application within the system. You'll either use the FAFSA or the California DREAM Act, depending on your citizenship status, to do that. But that is an important step to help pay and fund your education. It also will help you make sure that you're going to qualify for that 2 years free. Generally, I believe that's going to be a pretty broad across the board requirement to receive that 2 years of free tuition. In addition, you're going to want to make sure that you attend that planning process. Like I said, they're going to map it out for you, and many times that's part of the process. If we see this step here, it's going to ask you to also complete an online orientation, do placement, as well as meet with a counselor or an advisor to create a plan for your educational goals. Okay, that's going to be pretty broadly used. And then finally, the goal with this process is that you are then prepared to register on the first day that registration for courses is available to you. And one thing you might not know about the junior college process is that you are actually going to be doing your registration for your first year, your first semester of college before you graduate from high school. You're going to typically be registering for classes in the late spring, typically April or May, for a lot of your junior college circumstances, all right? And so you want to kind of target that registration date as having everything on this list, everything that's on this checklist to be done, all right? Might be a few sub deadlines, for example, like the financial aid applications. March 2nd is a big date in California. If you do not submit by March 2nd, you actually lose out on a pretty good chunk of change, all right? So there are some requirements in this process along the way. All right, and then you'll register for classes, and then usually there's either like an orientation or a summer bridge, and you would basically show up on the first day of school. All right. The next area you'll see is often student services and financial aid on this SBCC website. You'll see it here. So paying for college, it talks about the tuition and fees. Okay, so the tuition and fees, if you do that 2 years free, you won't be paying tuition. Okay, you won't be paying the kind of, you probably will have a few fees, like there might be a health center fee or an administrative fee or something like that. But the tuition fee itself, okay, is rather cheap and potentially free if that's the route that you decide to go. The thing that's not going to be free about college, and that's going to be pretty much anywhere, unless you live at home, which is you're technically not free, but there's no added cost, is your room and board or your living expenses. All right, and so generally the most economical way to save money and potentially put that later on in your educational career, or just save it for a down payment or something like that, is to actually live at home. All right, so if that's something that's doable for you, living at home can help save about $12,000 on average a year, okay, of out-of-pocket expenses that you might have to find somewhere else. Like I said, you're not free. Your parents or whoever you're living with are still going to have to, put forward money to pay for you, right? So they're still going to buy you food and that kind of stuff, but ultimately, or you'll buy it from them, but it's not going to be nearly the same cost as you trying to live on your own. There's not an extra rent payment, things like that. Okay, so you can save a lot of money that way. If you do decide to move somewhere to one of the other junior colleges outside of the area, junior colleges, there's only a very small handful of very limited dorms. And so most people live off campus in those dorms, and it's something that you will be responsible for maintaining and having access to that living opportunity and paying the fees that are associated with it. Like I said, most places it's about $12,000 to $13,000 a year for kind of your extra expenses apart from tuition. That usually includes rent, reasonable food expenses, a few kind of like odds and ends like car, not necessarily a car payment, but like insurance and things like that. Okay, so you have to budget and create opportunities there. A lot of websites actually have some information about housing, so you can actually learn about what that is. You might have to dig a little bit into some of their website, but like Santa Barbara actually has it on their main menu, so you can actually look that up here, our community, so you can see about the housing, you can see about their meal plans and stuff like that. The other area that's very helpful that you might want to kind of consider, and just as you're kind of working towards arriving at the junior college, like I said, having a plan and being connected is very important to your success. And so ultimately knowing where you can go and making a plan to go access the support that's available. Do not wait until you are behind or struggling to access the supports. Okay, so I would challenge each of you that's going this path or a four-year college path, know who your resources are and know what supports you have available. Okay, they have opportunities to help you with looking into career paths. They have academic counseling and tutoring and support groups and things like that. They also have social emotional and like mental health support. So if you're struggling and dealing with stress or other things that are going on in your life, they also have supports on campus for that. And so knowing how to access that is very important when you are on campus. The other piece that if you are looking at transferring out of a junior college into a four-year college, getting started with talking with a counselor, an academic advisor, a transfer advisor early on is very important because, like I said, in A through G, that starts in 9th grade in high school. Your path to transferring starts when you start college. All right, and you're going to need those 2 years to complete the required courses. And like Christopher said, you can actually create these agreements with the different schools that if you complete this degree and maintain this average or GPA or scores, you have a pretty strong guarantee that you'll get into potentially a school, and you create that agreement. It's up to you to follow it and kind of meet the expectations of it, but it's something that if you are on top of it, you can actually streamline part of this process. The other nice benefit about a junior college is, say for example, if you didn't have a stellar high school experience, if you're, sometimes people really royally screwed up their 9th or 10th grade year, or all years, or any component thereof, the pathway to, say, a bachelor's degree can feel somewhat murky at that point. And so one thing, and if that's your goal, one thing that you can find nice about the junior college process is that really can essentially make your process a clean slate. You get a fresh start that is not always offered to people, right? And so essentially when you do this transfer program, if you could have a 1.5 GPA in high school and a 4.0 in college and open up any opportunity that is available to you. You could go to any school that's that's going to accept transfers with that case. And so it is a nice thing. So it does create opportunities. It can create a sense of false security too. College is hard. You have to really put in the time and energy. There's not a lot of the same cushions that exist in high school. So very similarly on the opposite end of the spectrum, you can easily not do well in college too if you're not putting the time energy into it or accessing the resources you need to be successful. Okay, so those are some important areas of the junior college process. I would highly encourage you continue to do your research. Start investing in you. Okay, what you're doing by doing this research and doing this time and energy into this process is you're investing. Okay, you're giving up some time now that you might have to use to play soccer or video games or music or hang out with your friends or talk to someone on the phone or something like that, to invest in understanding what your future is going to look like, and it will pay back. Okay, the more that you do that, if you think of it like buying a car, if you walk into the car lot and you haven't done your research, you're probably going to leave with a piece of junk, right? Or something that's not suited for you, or something that's going to be outside of your budget or area that you need. Okay, if you're trying to carry around a bunch of motorcycles, you shouldn't get a little Mustang, right? You need a truck. And so it's something to know what you need, know what's important to you, know what's in your budget and availability. Okay, and know what's going to get you to the place where you want to do it. So you're going to talk to your friends. You're going to look at YouTube. You're going to check consumer reports. You're going to hopefully do a test drive. Okay, understanding more about your car or the college is very important to your success and happiness in school. Okay, take advantage of some of these things. I would challenge you, and I'll leave you with this tip. I would challenge you in this research process, come up with 5 or 10 questions that you would have. Try to search for 5 or 10 questions that you can't find an answer to or you don't understand, and then come ask me. Okay, I want to help you guys navigate this process. The junior college is an excellent system. Some of my favorite classes were taken at Cuesta College. I can distinctly remember a jazz music class that I took. I took it with a bunch of old people and a bunch of people my age, and it was super enlightening because there were so many different points of view. It was super interesting, and I would encourage considering junior college for everybody. I think everybody should have multiple paths to finding the level of success and goals that you have in life. So find 5 or 10 things that you think are going to be important to you, and then come ask me, help me, challenge me, stump me, try to trick me, try to help me learn myself by helping you. All right, so I want to challenge you with that. And then don't wait. That's the last piece that I'll leave you with, is don't wait for something to happen. Okay, you have to start taking advantage of what's available to you. And sometimes what happens I see is you can't find an answer. You get through a process and then there's not a next step that's easily kind of identified, and you freeze and you stop. Try not to do that. All right, if you get to a point and you're like, I think something's supposed to happen and I don't know what that is, avoid the temptation to just let that happen and then not do anything about it. Okay, ask questions, reach out for help, whether that's a teacher, your parents, me, a friend, okay, anybody, and just ask, like, I think I should be doing something right now and I don't know what that is. Here's what I've done, here's what I've looked up. Can you help me figure out what I should be doing next or what I'm missing? Okay, because if you stop and freeze, okay, no one after high school, and oftentimes even in high school sometimes, is going to come prompt you for the next step. Okay, you have to do that self-advocacy piece, and it's a great year to start practicing and getting better at that, okay? If you need help, please ask. Please set up an appointment. We can talk through this at your senior post-secondary plans, but that's just a starting point. We can meet anytime you'd like throughout this year to talk about what your life looks like after high school, okay, whatever your path may be. So I hope you learned something, and I hope that you got a little bit of information, some resources and tools during this video, but I hope to talk to you soon. And we're so glad that you guys are back in school, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon or evening.